please, let's give a warm welcome to our Diana.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. When Adrian asked me to speak this year, our anniversary year, it was exciting to me. And I was still, in the cocoon. You know how it is? The caterpillar turns into muck inside of the cocoon, doesn't quite know what's going to happen. And I still don't know what's going to happen, but it's been an incredible journey. And the timing seems right now to be sharing this with you. So I've put together a really fun keynote presentation of what Ted and I have been looking at as our road not traveled. About 2 years ago, as you know, many of you, I called Tim Peering and asked him, I said, let's get together and talk about this Act 3. Because what's happening right now in the world is amazing. 50% of our population is going to be over 55. The boomers are maturing, and they are also looking at, wow, I'm sure this is happening in this room too. Wow, I didn't know I would be this healthy. I didn't know I would have this much life ahead of me, this much really creative life ahead of me. And with what's happening economically in the world, I think a lot of us are looking at how some of the resources that we counted on are just simply dissolving. And what are we going to do about that for ourselves? What can that look like? Can that be exciting and a possibility? And so this is what Ted and I have been working on. This is a little image. I'm using a stepping stone image in this talk today. It's the autumn of my life, and I see these stepping stones moving out into the future. And the whole stepping stone idea came to me from this man named Roger Housden. Do you know who he is? He's my very, very favorite author. He writes so soulfully. He's done maybe 20 books, 10 poems to save your life, 10 poems to open your heart. And he's he's a catalyst for me falling so in love with poetry that I decided I would memorize a new poem every week. People say, how do you do that? Well, Ted and I went to the Laguna Playhouse the other night, and there was a one-woman play. And she spoke for an hour and a half. I mean, how did she do that? I mean, a poem is like 15 lines. You can do that. We can do that. And it really changes your life, because instead of the monkey mind going crazy inside and saying all these weird things inside of your head, you actually put in this gorgeous, gorgeous poetry and ideas, and it's a wonderful thing to do. But I even got to meet Roger Housden. I'd always wanted to meet him, and last year on my 70th birthday, this year on my 70th birthday, I decided I would just call him up and see if he'd have lunch with us, because we were up in the Bay Area. And I invited Kim Rosen as well, who's written books on poetry, and he joined us for lunch. And what a wonderful man. He told us a story of when he was living in London. A man showed up on his door. He was an immigrant from China. And he said to Roger, he said, I don't know why I felt so compelled to come to see you, but I know I need to tell you this story. And he said, the night before I left China forever, I had a dream, and my grandfather came to me, and he led me to a river. And it was misty, and you could just see one rock out in the river. And his grandfather said, do you see that stone in the river, that stepping stone in the river? He said, yes. He said, you can only see one of them. And he said, your life will be like this. Trust it. And that's the challenge, isn't it? Because we don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to trust it. It's really hard to trust it, especially when life throws you a loop. So my loop happens to be my husband. And you've probably all met Ted, but I doubt that very many of you really know Ted. Ted has a surface reputation, let's say, as a very successful attorney. And he's been on Oprah, and he's been on Donahue and the CBS Evening News and so on. The reason that he's been such a successful attorney really is his absolute passionate curiosity in that he wants to find out what is the story behind things. How did something really happen? I've seen him lose sleep over a traffic accident that he's trying to figure out. And he says, it can't have happened the way they're saying. It cannot have happened. So he calls in experts, and even the experts say, Ted, what do you think happened? Because he's very intuitive. And he's always reading about what's going on in the world. And he's always telling me, Diana, you know, there's no point in watching the news because it isn't true. You know. We think they're telling us who's running the world, and they're not beginning to get close to the truth about who's running the world and the families behind the whole world that are running it. He loves all this stuff. He's always reading this stuff. Last year he had a passion for Atlantis and what really happened in Atlantis. Found a great book about it, and this comet came, and I mean, and so we're actually taking our 22nd anniversary cruise next month. And we're going to go from Barcelona and go through the Azores, which is supposedly where Atlantis was, and so on. But I mean, he's got this passionate curiosity. And it's really fun because he's been talking for a long time about the fact that we have a central sun, and that there were ancient civilizations that were so much more advanced in many ways than we are, and how the pyramids were built, and all of that. I mean, he just does not stop with all this. He was so curious back long before I met him, when he was driving along one day and he saw a car that said, asked me about transcendental meditation. And he honked and he pulled the woman over and he says, tell me about transcendental meditation. And he went off to transcendental meditation and did all the cities and did all that work. And after a while he says, no, there's more to this, there's more. So he hired a man and sent him around the world for 7 years to interview enlightened people and find out how they were becoming enlightened. And finding out, just wanting to know really all about that. He's also the most wonderful husband, and truly an affectionate man, and available and funny. And he's a little shy, so you may not know all those sides of him. But it's time for him to leave his law firm. I mean, it really is time. And so, and we're also looking, like everybody, at, you know, what are we going to do that is not only valuable, but that can bring in resources and support us in our elder years. So we were leaving a wonderful enlightened master up in San Francisco who we've been seeing for about 15 years. And they've named him Satchidananda, and they've passed the gauntlet to him, and they want him to go out and speak. And he says, you know, I'm going to do this, and you're going to do this with me. And that was a moment for me. It was like a deer in the headlights. Have you been seeing me like a deer in the headlights a little bit this year? And that's why I haven't even been able to explain it all. So we began doing a little bit of speaking. It was very awkward. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing, who our audience was going to be. A few of you in this room we did invite. Michael was there, and Patty, and I had a little focus group about how are we going to do this? Who is our audience? And what is this going to look like? And we started out in some churches, and that was okay, but I didn't feel like they were really interested in this particular subject all that much. And then we did, asking. I look at all these fun things I'm doing with all the lights and everything. What kind of light can we bring into this world? This was an open house at a yoga center. Well, we were getting a little bit closer to what we were doing, because the yoga centers, you know, yoga was designed as a opening for consciousness. The postures were designed thousands and thousands of years ago to put us into a state of meditation, a state of quiet, so that we could sit. They were designed, the asanas were designed for sitting and to becoming enlightened. That was the purpose of them. And what began with that whole new thing that we were doing are some, what I call 7 steps. And they go from the deeply personal, from the physical body, to the most expansive. And within these steps, I think, are some things that you're really going to enjoy using for yourself. Things that you may now not have heard of yet, because I hadn't. And we were just in a complete state of discovery. So this is this first stepping stone. Speaking in yoga centers and doing a lot of yoga, I had been certified as a yoga teacher about 6 years ago with my friend Mike, who's here as my guest this morning. And I didn't do it in order to become a yoga teacher. I did it because I really wanted to immerse myself in the postures and learn as much as I could in a very short time. And then I discovered something called restorative yoga. Have you heard of restorative yoga? It's a fascinating, wonderful thing. It's the use of a lot of props in order to put your body into a state of such complete relaxation and comfort that it's more restful than sleep. And you hold the pose for 10, 15 minutes. And if you do just one a day, it truly does change your life. Something happens. Then my friend Mary Kelly, whom many of you know, sent me a link to Judith Lassiter. She is really the queen of restorative yoga. She is somebody who, with our own Rama Vernon, who started Yoga Journal, she was part of the origins of Yoga Journal. You can see a woman here is in this, she's over a bolster and her body's very open. And what happens is that you're not producing the cortisol in the body. The stress hormones do not get produced because you're not dreaming. Even in sleep, you're dreaming. And there is stress in the body. So that she told me that she was going to be teaching a class to people who were already yoga teachers, training them for a full week in San Francisco in restorative yoga. And I thought, gosh, if we're going to be speaking at yoga centers, it would be really nice addition to my credentials to be a certified restorative yoga teacher. So I enrolled in this. I didn't know that there would be 80 people in the class. I didn't know I would be the oldest person in the class. I didn't know that I was going to have to haul a suitcase with all of my props. You have to have bolsters and 5 or 6 blankets and blocks and everything else. And I was going to go to San Francisco, and I had to haul this upstairs every day. And the only hotel nearby, within walking distance, because I didn't want to have to drive, you couldn't possibly park nearby, was this like flea bag hotel. I mean, literally, I looked it up online, and people said there were bed bugs. And I mean, I really was not looking forward to going. And Ted laughed at me, and he says, Diana, you don't really think you're going to go there alone, do you? And I said, you're coming, thank you. And so we stayed. It was wonderful, because what we decided was that Ted really needed to have a book, and possibly an e-book that you could download that would be, you know, something that would sell in the yoga centers and so on. So I had to write a research paper in order to be certified. So here's Ted in one of the positions. You can see me up in the far corner with my camera taking a picture of him. And this is Don Kelly and Mary Kelly, who volunteered. These are 3 different restorative yoga poses. You can see how the props are holding the bodies in perfect alignment. And this you just absolutely go into a state of bliss once you learn how to do this. And I am teaching this privately in my home, one-on-one. And I give people a bar of fudge, too, as something to motivate them. But it's a wonderful thing, because you can learn to do it yourself. You can buy the book. You can have your own props. And this is something you can do for yourself, and it's a tremendous gift. As I said, it's more restful than sleep. And every muscle in the body is supported. Step 2, plant-based diet. Wonderful book called Forks Over Knives came out this year. And it's been made into, it's a movie, and it is extraordinary. I mentioned it a little bit at one of the meetings, that I was on all these heart medications, 4 or 5 heart medications. And I didn't know what was causing all these strange feelings in my legs and just odd side effects that were coming from this. And then we went to see this film called Forks Over Knives, and it's about 2 doctors, separately, who were conducting really extensive tests over many years. One of them used the whole continent of China, or the whole, it's not a continent, is it? Well, whatever it is, all of China, to map and block out where disease is. And of course obviously it's in the big cities and so on, but what was really interesting was how little disease there was in areas where they really didn't have meat. And then they put their research together, and then they had about 10 or 15 people who they put on a 13-week program of completely plant-based, very low fat, and no dairy and so on. And they had one man, all these people had deteriorating health. And all of them were on medications, and a lot of them had heart disease and diabetes and so on. And what was amazing, in the 13 weeks, we saw one man who was on many medications go to no medications at all and have his diabetes completely disappear. So I was very much struck by this and walked out of that place out of the theater, a different person. And so I've been basically eating plant-based, and I'm off all my heart medications. What really surprises me, I was sitting at a dinner. I won't use the name of the organization because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but we were sitting next to some people at dinner, and this woman said, John and I, or whatever her husband's name is, we're on 15 medications. We take 8 in the morning and 7 at night. And I said, well, you need to go see this film, because this is amazing. I'm off all my heart meds, and it's amazing. And he said to me, and he also said one of them was Coumadin. Now, Coumadin is just a frightening drug. Get off that drug if anybody's telling you to go on that. If it's not monitored correctly, you can become a paraplegic. And this happened to my high school best friend's husband. They bicycled all over Europe, and he didn't monitor his Coumadin, and he is a paraplegic and in pain all the time from this drug. So when she said that they were on Coumadin, that's when I said, you really have to see this movie. And her husband said, oh, we couldn't do that. We like food too much. And that's true. I mean, that's why people don't. That's why people don't make changes in their life. They're too comfortable. Well, comfort isn't the goal. Because if we pay attention to comfort, it can get really bad. Ted's mother she became a couch potato. She did not want to do anything except watch television. And there's a certain entropy that comes into our bodies, that it's a little bit hard to get out there and surf or go out and walk the hills around our house. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it. So this was just an amazing thing, that those 2 things made a big difference, the restorative yoga and that. Now, step 3. This is something really exciting. I mean, don't we all have too much stuff? And as we mature, don't we stop and think, why do we need all this stuff? We don't need all this stuff. And a lot of us maybe don't want to stay in the places that we're living now, and we want to look toward something that's really expansive and something that would be much more community-minded. This is a trend that I predict is going to make a huge difference. This is a book called Pocket Neighborhoods. I call them courtyard communities. I think there's a huge real estate opportunity. In Palm Springs, for instance, they have a lot of 8-plexes. Well, a group could get together and buy an 8-plex and turn one of the apartments, one of the into the community room. And that's where you would gather for enrichment that you would bring in, or do yoga, or you could have some potluck dinners. And then you'd be surrounded by people that you know and love. You can just be self-selecting. My friend Mary Kelly and I often say, well, we're going to be in our rocking chairs together. And we look to the future for years now. And she says, you know what we really ought to do? We ought to buy like an old Victorian house that has these big bedrooms and get 4 or 5 couples, and we'll go there and we'll create our own little place. And then she says, yeah, and we could get some medical marijuana, and instead of golden days, we'd call it golden haze. Wouldn't that make a great sitcom? It really would. Can you imagine 5 couples living in this? Anyway, these are called pocket neighborhoods. And they're creating small-scale community in a large-scale world. I think this is going to be a really exciting option for the future. I call it enlightened living because we're lightening up. We're getting rid of stuff. These pocket neighborhoods ideally have about 14 to 16 households in them. And you're really downsizing in quantity but not in quality because they're very livable. They're designed with an idea of being very easy to maintain, sharing gardens. You have your self-selecting communities, just like the Inside Edge is self-selecting. You're with like-minded people. Ideally, it's multi-generational so that there's some kids around who can benefit from elders as grandparents to the whole community. Because kids are coming home, they're not getting the attention they need. People are out working 2 jobs in their family to maintain just the basic lifestyle. And here are these elders that could be there mentoring, teaching. I mean, isn't it exciting? I think it's a really exciting concept. These are some kind of fuzzy pictures of this particular architect and what he's designing. Some of these are more up in the Northern California area. Then step 4, whoa, technology. Did you see that? Yeah. I'll back up so you can see that again. Whoa. Technology is so exciting. Technology is just, I've always been good at it, and I've always liked it, and boy, you have to really be alert now to keep up with everything that's happening out there because it's changing so fast. But I have my iPad, and Ted and I can be driving along, and he says, what year did Einstein publish his theory of relativity? Hold on just a minute. And I've got, it's right there. Paul and I wrote a book in 1983 that was all the ethnic ingredients of the world. I had a very primitive, one of the early word processors that had disks this size. And it was always going on the fritz. And in order to research, we went to the library and we went to ethnic markets and we looked at this stuff. And it was basically, what is all this stuff in the different markets, in the ethnic markets? And how do you use it? And what would be a recipe? And how do you store it once you open the jar? So we wrote a 1,500-page manuscript. And it took us a long time. But can you imagine how easy it would be now? Some publishers asked me about publishing it again, and we don't need it. Everybody's got Google. Here's Steve Jobs, St. Peter's, looking him up in the book. And he says, I have an app for that. Isn't that amazing? Didn't he change the world? Doesn't it feel good to use Mac stuff? The programs. I get so excited, and we live so close to the Apple Store. And you can sign up and have, for $99 a year, you can have one-on-one classes, and you go in. And you just feel good about the way they treat you there. It's just, there's possibilities there. Here's in New York, look at this. Amazing. I'm just in love with it. They have something new that you may not know about, and I want to share this with you. This is called joint venture. They have a business team. You may have noticed that they have the store is now twice as large. Have you seen it since they redid it? Has this huge conference room in the back that overlooks the ocean. For $499, you can join something called joint venture. And if you have a small business, and you're putting together a small business, or you already have one, You can take in your team members and they'll meet with you in the conference room and work with you on ways of developing your business. And so this sounded like a good idea for us, doing what? With our new business, we had no idea how we're going to reach audiences. I knew I needed to learn a whole lot of things. And so that's been amazing. And we've been, step 5 now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we're beginning to apply these things into what we're up to. Feeling further into the future. This is going to run automatically. I want you to see this. This is called a video flip book. You can download this, you can publish it and download it onto your computer. At the beginning of each chapter, the author talks to you about what's coming up in the chapter. And then it looks like just like a regular book. So this can become an e-book. And there's software out there. This man, David T. Fagan, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He is amazing. A stepping stone showed up in front of us just as we were saying, how are we going to do this? We need to know about Twitter and all this. I mean, how are we going to spread the word about what we want to do? How are we going to get people to come to our website? Well, I get an email from a woman named Lynn Rose, who I took a wonderful speaking workshop from, and she said, I'm inviting you to a one-day workshop with a man named David T. Fagan. And he was the CEO of Guerrilla Marketing. And he's now started his own business, and he is called the Icon Builder. He has all these very interesting technologies about how to drive traffic to your website, how to give away something ethically on your website so that people sign up to be on your list and so on. I think he'd be wonderful for the Inside Edge. He would be amazing. And he's young. He's only about 36 years old, has 7 kids, lives in Oregon, and he's a Mormon. And he lives in this darling, wonderful little community. And Ted and I went up there and spent several days with him. And he did videos of Ted and began putting together what would begin to look like something that we could market. There's also something called tag technology, which you've probably seen. On your smartphone, you just point it at the tag, and it picks up the tag, and it takes you to a website, or it takes you to information. And it's a great new way of advertising. There's a code in there that makes everything accessible. Here's the beginning of something he's creating for Ted, because Ted loves all this stuff about the cosmos, and he puts it together with meditation. Here is a talk that we did recently in Sedona at the Unity Church there. And Ted's book, The Enlightenment Code, is being done now as a video flip book. David is putting it into a video flip book. He's also typesetting it so that we can print it. And he's very reasonable. I mean, if you have some kind of a business that you think you need a young genius to come along and say, this is how you're going to reach people, it's really exciting. And this picture was taken of Ted up there at his farm. You've heard a little bit about Act 3 from me before. This is the result of something that came from discussing with Tim Peering how we can reinvent Act 3 of our lives, the time of our lives where it all comes together. In a play, that's when everything is resolved, that's the completion. How can we make that the most incredible time of our lives? And that began a really exciting thing with us. We started calling these things pods. We started creating groups of 9 people who would meet 9 times and discuss 9 subjects. And what happened in those groups is that such bonding took place, because they were not just 9 ordinary subjects. To create a pod, you need a facilitator, 9 people, 9 3-hour sessions covering 9 subjects, and then tracking the results to share with others. So we wanted to build a website where people could archive, some of their conversations, either on a recording or so on, and that the other pods would have access to those things. Now, here are the different topics. There are 3 different levels of topics. The middle one, right here, balance, mind, and meaning, have to do with our waking life. And there are, as you can see, there's body, mind, spirit, work, play, relationship under balance. Understanding the nature of the mind. What now? Who am I? Exploration. Then there's the unconscious. So we talk about completing the past, recapitulation, mortality. That was one of the most fascinating subjects, something that we don't like to think about or talk about. And Mary Kelly was assigned the subject of mortality. She says, and she had battled breast cancer and written about that. And she said, I think I've done this long enough. And she found that the most fascinating subject. She fell in love with the way the different cultures of the world deal with mortality and the Day of the Dead. And she made all these masks. I mean, it turned out to be really an exciting subject. Dreams, it's really great if somebody has a lot of knowledge of depth psychology and talking about dreams and all of that. And then there's the more inspirational spiritual life. And we talk about poetry and mentoring and self-realization and all of that. So the 9 people each have a different subject that they kind of research a lot about, and that we take turn presenting in the group. And I was recording it on my Mac. We now see that what happened, that they never want to part. The 9 people really love each other. And so the group in LA decided to add 9 more people and then split. That's what they're going to do. Another person wants to start their own pod. And so they'll go out and choose 8 more people and start their own pod. But staying in touch with us as far as archiving all of the information and support. And we see this, I mean, is this just a wonderful way for community to grow? Can you see that it would eventually have super groups where regionally there might be 15 pods and they might want to get together for a meeting? Because if you're with somebody who's been through this pod process, you feel like you're already connected to them. You've already shared a lot of information. And then we can see it could go global. I mean, it really could. It's something that we see as something that could go global and would be a very good thing because it's kind of under the radar, isn't it? I mean, it's not government controlled. It's not. It could be really exciting, couldn't it? Another thing that we began to see would be fun about this would be doing some group travel that would include people from the pods or people, people from the edge would be welcome. And where would be a fun place to go? Well, it would be great to go on cruise ships and take our own group of speakers and to have our own programs on them. Wouldn't that be fun? I mean, it would just be really great and get good prizes. And we began to think, well, wouldn't it be interesting to do something for next year because it's the end of the Mayan calendar? Where could we go? Whoa. And what would we do there? Well, it turns out, doing some research, that here, I love this. I only had enough room to go up to 2012. Ha! That'll freak somebody out someday. There's a place called Copan Ruinas in Honduras that has the best Mayan ruins of all. And they're particularly artful and colorful and amazing.
With the comforts of luxury boutique hotels, the enchantment of Mayan ruins, and the quaintness of cobblestone village life, there's so much to experience in a town dating back nearly 2,000 years. Copan Ruinas, Honduras. Copan Ruinas is best known for its archaeological park and sculpture museum. Historians find the ruins to be the most artistically significant in the Maya world.
the feature that really makes it stand out is precisely the carved sculpture of Copan. Other sites have reliefs, but they're not as deep, not as elaborate, not as beautiful as the ones we have at Copan.
A free children's museum about Maya culture is housed in the refurbished Fuerte Cabañas. Overlooking the Copan Valley is the 100-year-old family-owned retreat, Hacienda San Lucas. This hacienda features a hilltop yoga center.
People like to come to the hacienda because it has one of the best views of the valley. You can see temples coming out of the forest, only solar electricity, so it's very peaceful and quiet. Our dinner here is exceptional. Foods are cooked traditionally, all the flavors are traditional flavors, and it's quite romantic at night.
Not amazing? Isn't that fun? Doesn't it sound like that could be really exciting? And the woman, the agent we're working with, says that there are several shamans who will take us on special ceremonies and out into the ruins, and you can go across bridges over rivers, and it's just going to be fun. It's an 8-day trip, and I think it's going to be in October next year. So let us know if you're interested. Now, step 7. There's actually a lot more steps than that, because what we're discovering is just all these cosmic mysteries. We just got back from a wonderful conference in Sedona called CPAC, which is the Conference on Precession and Ancient Knowledge. Well, did Ted love this? Did he love this? It was amazing. Have you heard of spiral galaxies? They were discovered by Hubble. Look at these. These are other universes. I mean, this is amazing. This, I couldn't get it to work. If you go online and you go to YouTube or your Huffington Post, you can see this black hole eating a star. I mean, it's just gone. Amazing. Crop circles? Hello, look at those. At this conference, a woman walked in with a piece of jewelry. I said, that is really a beautiful piece of jewelry. She says, it's a crop circle. And she told me about a speaker that we might want to have here, a woman who's a Stanford PhD, and she is the expert on crop circles. And they go up overnight. Now, how do you explain this? I mean, is this just astonishing? There's a lot of astonishing stuff. There's audiences we never knew existed. That CPAC conference had a lot of people. And do they love what Ted has to talk about? Yes, they're fascinated. Putting together all this cosmic stuff and all the meditation and the enlightenment and why we're becoming conscious and the yugas and how they have affected our consciousness. Is that amazing? There's a huge number of people who follow all this, and we didn't know they were there. So one stepping stone after another has led us into a world we had no idea existed. Now we were in Sedona, and that was right outside of our room. Isn't that amazing? One of my favorite poets, Mary Oliver, I just found this yesterday. She has a poem called Mysteries, Yes. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment, and bow their heads. That's what we do at the Inside Edge, isn't it? It's about, we're spiritually conscious people with a deep curiosity, deep intellectual curiosity. And one of my favorite poems is by Mary Oliver. She says, "My work is loving the world." And in this poem, she's walking along, and she says, here the hummingbirds, there the sunflowers, equal seekers of sweetness. She goes on talking about what's around her. But I'm saying, here the spiral galaxies, there the crop circles. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? That's me in 15 years. Still trekking along on the stepping stones. I hope you'll come and ford that river with me. Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. So, I would love... Oh, thank you, my dear. I think we have about 5 minutes for questions. Thank you.
Hello. That was absolutely wonderful. Let's give Diana another round of applause.
Thank you.
And we do have a few moments for questions. If anybody has any questions, please Ted,
Oh no!
I don't think you qualify for questions. No, Ted.
Oh.
Ted, here we want to welcome you with the mic. Oh, no.
Okay. Does anybody else have a question? I'm ignoring that one. No.
No question.
Basia
Basia.
has one. Oh, it's really hard to choose a favorite, and I'll choose a couple. Thank you for asking that. Anne Sexton wrote a poem called Welcome Morning. There is joy in all, in the hair I brush each morning, in the cannon towel newly washed I rub my body with each morning, in the chapel of eggs I cook each morning, in the outcry of the kettle that heats my coffee each morning. In the Godhead of the table I set my silver plate cup upon each morning. All this is God, right here in my pea greenhouse. And I mean, though often forget, to give thanks, to faint down by the kitchen table in a prayer of rejoicing as the holy birds at the kitchen window peck into their marriage of seeds. So, while I think of it, let me paint a thank you on my palm for this God, for this laughter of the morning, lest it go unspoken. The joy that isn't shared, I've heard, dies young.
Lovely. Diana, you are a woman after my own heart, right down to all the Mac products. I can so relate to what you're saying. I, like you, am completely in love with everything Mac and Apple, and Bob will tell you I'm obsessed with it, and technically I'm pretty good too, and I've created books, and just every time I find out something new about what it is that they've now developed, I get so excited. I do have the $99 one-to-one. I was there yesterday. I love everything about it. So, and plus your whole philosophy and everything you talked about today, I feel like you're an extension of me and what I feel is in my heart. So thank you so much for sharing. Do we have a question over there? Okay.
Diana, Here I've been very careful to push that away and did it. Thank you for a beautiful presentation, and I'm so in awe of this was a beautiful presentation. The simplest thing may be, out of everything you've shared, when you spoke of technology, did you actually do that? Put that slide in that presentation?
I did. Ted and I went in about 10 days ago, had a session in the conference room with their top guy, 2 hours. He embedded that movie in there for me. I had taken all my little pieces in, and he showed me how to do all those things, some of which I never would have figured out. Wow. It was really great. Wow. We should have a Mac Edge, don't you think we need a Mac Edge?
Very well done. Okay, thank you again,
Thank
Diana.
you.
Thank you so much. Let's give a warm thanks to Diana. Oh, one more.
Oh.
Yes. Diana, I just want to make an observation. I'm aware of the full circledness that I feel today of you starting this organization, and I just want to, I remember when you said if you really want to know the story of the Inside Edge, read your book, Send Me Someone. So I don't know if everyone is aware that there is the story of the Inside Edge, which is really Diana's story and everything that has come from that, which is this and so much more. So I'm just feeling this wonderful sense of coming around to the beginning. Even your trip that's coming up, is this how the Inside Edge began? Even though I wasn't here at that time, I was well aware of your trip to the Soviet Union at that time, and sort of another odyssey taking you and all of us to the next level. So I just want to honor your journey, and thank you for continuing to share at the level, the depth, because I've been privileged to see some of your other parts of your journey on a very personal level, and I just love that you continue to share it publicly as well. It's an inspiration.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me here today.
Okay, and Diana has written many books, as we know, so I'm sure she welcomes all of you to go online to get those books. We don't have any books here
I
this
do
morning.
have some Send Me Someones in the car, I think. That
Okay,
could, just maybe 3, maybe.
Okay, so Send Me Someone. And again, there are some reminders, last-minute reminders. There are feedback cards on the table. We welcome you to fill those out. We always like to know what it is you think about our morning and what you've experienced here. There are CDs and DVDs available in the back if you would like.
Give me a good grade.
Also, many of us go to Starbucks afterwards, so please join us there. And now we have our music. And Mary, are you going to?
Oh, this is wonderful.
Okay.
We're just so happy to have Harold Payne back with us. It's been a long time. He lives so far away, and he wanted to honor us and honor Diana, the occasion of Diana's talk today. Thank you for coming, and can't wait to hear what you're going to do.
They're putting it on this.
That way we might at least pick up. We'll see what happens. It's what I call a recap improv. When you can only see one stepping stone ahead of you, you gotta have a little trust. It's your choice to burn out like a comet or sit around and rust. 'Cause there's a road not yet traveled as your dreams become unraveled. You will find your way one step at a time. Some of us take loads of medication affect our lives. We can end up couch potatoes on Coumadin and let go of our comfort food and choose forks over knives. There's every road not yet traveled, and as your dreams become unraveled, you will find your way one step at a time. We can share our lives with partners, beware and with whom we want to be, exploring Mayan ruins or crop circles as we enter Act 3. We can downsize our quantity, not our quality. In a pocket neighborhood, if you wanna, you can spend your golden days in a golden haze of medical marijuana. There's a road not yet traveled. As your dreams become unraveled, you will find your way in Diana's rhymes, poetry, one step at a time. Improvisation is messy, so I also, the last time Diana was here, I wrote a little piece, and I was looking at it and I thought, well, I don't know if I can beat that, so I'm going to reprise it, and it's to a little, I had written a piece, I do a lot of custom song work, and I'd written a custom song for this couple that got married at 80 years old, and it was inspiring, and so the song was called Why Not? So I redid the lyrics for Diana. So I hope I can scan it properly. Okay. 25 years ago, a great idea was born. It inspired all of us to get up early Wednesday morn. Diana, Paul, and Tim decided enlightened souls just might become excited. So they took a leap with hearts and heads and started something called the Inside Edge. Thank you, Diana Von Well and Miss Wentworth, for realizing that we all like to network and hear great speakers every week. Meet with friends and get our auras tweaked. We can sleep an extra 90 minutes and never know what that great book has in it. When that alarm goes off at 5 and you really want to feel alive, why not take your idea just a little bit farther? Why not? You just might find yourself a business partner. Why not? Why not? Why not? We could follow our separate muses, stay sequestered, there's a million excuses. Or we could make that great connection and get headed in the right direction. Why not get a brainstorm for your next big project? Why not discover something at a table process? Why not? Why not? Why not? With Diana Wentworth in our presence, we're filled with ageless, timeless effervescence. Consider all the possibilities to stimulate your creativity. You can do your Jungian dream work or take advantage of incredible teamwork. Why not feel the power of 100 hugs? Why not stand in the vortex of a room filled with love? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not?
Well, that was absolutely wonderful. Diana, did you special order him? It couldn't have been more perfect. Absolutely more perfect. So thank you so much. Very, very wonderful. So our morning is about to wrap up, and we do this every morning, like I said, and Wednesday morning. And to introduce next week's speaker is our wonderful Adrian, our program director.
Thank you. And thank you, Lynette, for your love of math and our love of CPAC and our love of Diana. And Diana, you're always so beautiful and close to my heart. And it just was a real privilege to have you here this morning to share with us on this 25th anniversary. And Harold, yes, Harold, came all the way here from Los Angeles, and so that really is a tribute to us, and he did it especially because we asked for this morning. Now, next week, we are having a motivational speaker. Her name is Marilyn Sherman. She's coming to us from Las Vegas, Nevada. She's a woman who climbed the corporate ladder, became a trainer, a corporate executive, and she's written several books on how to put yourself in front of people. And her topic is how to get out of the balcony and sit in the front row. So if you've been holding yourself back, next week is the time you will be ready to put yourself forward. So be here next week for Marilyn Sherman. Thank you.
I was so small you couldn't see me. I was hiding behind Diana, who's this tall, elegant, beautiful woman. And I have to say, Diana, you are so beautiful. And you're like, I've decided that you are definitely our celebrity because you qualify as a celebrity, being that you had your own TV show and you've written all these books and everything. So I feel like we are in the presence of a celebrity, and we are honored to have you here. So again, a few reminders, CDs and DVDs in the back, and feedback cards, please. And Starbucks, Diana, are you going to join us afterwards? Many of us go to Starbucks, so if you'd like to join us, we'd love to see you up there. And hope to see you all here again next week, and have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Okay, that was Moss, right? The DVD or the CD?
The CD, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty good. I just want to keep representing. It might be actually.
Now, Christine, are you entitled to water or am
No, I need to pay, so, but I pay out front.
What is that? I'd be happy to be a part of this.